Alright, I'm going to work on the axle replacement job here. My Magic Tilt dual axle trailer. As you can see, it's pretty rusted. I've painted over it a couple times, but it's pretty well shot. So the plan is, at this point, I'm going to remove the wheels. I've already jacked up the frame considerable amount, so it's elevated. It's going to make it a little easier to, as you can see, I got jack stands over there. Hopefully is going to make it a little bit easier to get this axle in and out without having to move everything around too much. The plan is that I'm going to move one axle at a time so that I don't have to worry about measurements and that kind of thing. I'm not replacing the springs because I replaced them just 6 or 7 months ago. They're not in great condition, but I think it's easier if I leave them alone, because then I'll know right where to put the axle back. So I believe I have a 93.5 inch axle, but we'll find out once I get this thing out of here if I measured right. The next step is, after I've removed the wheel, is I'm going to tap this while rotating this to get the bearing buddy to come off. As you can see, as I tap it, it slowly moves away, and so you just rotate and it will eventually come off. Just light taps. If you got a just real easy taps, you don't want to bang that up too much. And as you can see, I've tapped it and now it's loose and it comes off. I went ahead and laid the new one next to the old one, and fortunately I did buy the right size axle. And there's two ways to measure your axle. They have it on the website. I think trailerparts.com is the site. And what I did, just to save a little time, is I only removed one side of the U-bolts and then just loosened the other, since I was going to buy new U-bolts anyway. By doing that, I didn't have to cut anything. Just one thing to make it easier on yourself is take off the opposite side U-bolt. So that one I did the outside, and this one I did the inside. So then I could just push it this way and it'll slide off and then come out without having to take those off there. So that saves you a little time if you don't want to, if your U-bolts aren't bad enough to where you have to cut them. The axles I used are Dexter axles, and you can look up the different models that are available on there, but I ended up with a 93.5 inch axle, and I believe that measures the entire length of the axle. On the website that I got it from originally, it gives you a couple different ways to measure your axles to make sure you get the right one. Also, these axles come with these nice clips so that there's no hole in the trailer axle that's drilled. And what this does is, there's the hole. Now the only catch to that is that you have to line up where it sits on your trailer, which you probably wouldn't normally anyway have to do that. You'd probably have to drill a hole where you want it, but this allows it. It's a much simpler installation, but you do have to slide the axle around until you get it right where you want it to be. You can see here I went ahead and put the axle into place. I actually used that piece of cardboard, and I laid the axle down and then just kind of slid it. The cardboard slid along the ground to get it over to the other side, and then I crawled up under there and was able to put it in the rest of the way. So that's a good strategy, unless you have a partner or a helper that can help you move it. Or if you don't have the boat on top, then that makes it a lot easier too. You can just stand above it and feed it through. Okay, I guess the next step is to measure to see you have your axles in place, side to side, the right dimensions. So I measured this, and it's looking about 2 inches. I measured the other side that same distance, and it was 2 inches. So I believe I have my axle centered. So I'm going to try and mark this with a Sharpie, and then add the U-bolts on so it stays where I wanted it. Then I'll measure again. Okay, I've tightened up my U-bolts and sprayed some more cold galvanized paint over top of everything. And it'll keep the rust to a minimum. And now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and cut the protection off of here and reinstall the hub. Okay, I was able to push the hub back on there. I'm a little concerned about how it went on. I wasn't able to reuse the washer that I had on the old one, and this kit did not come with a washer, but the nut's pretty big, so maybe it doesn't need one. It's 1.5 inches, and the reason why it's bigger is because it's got that Zerk fitting that pushes grease through the axle, through the end of the spindle, and comes out the back side to push all your grease out the front. So, and then it has this special clip instead of a cotter pin, and that snaps in right there. So post in the comments if you have any thoughts on this. If I screwed something up, I'll probably not put the bearing buddy back on until I do a little more research on it. Alright, so remember earlier I was wondering about the washer. Well, it turns out that first axle that I bought, I guess when they put it together they forgot to put the washers in, because the second axle has these nice washers. So that answers my question. I'll have to give them a call.